Okay, today we're going to be looking at absolute value again, but this time we're going to be dealing with inequalities, and our solutions will be written in interval form. Since the solutions will be continuous, we cannot use roster notation. Okay, so here we have the absolute value of x is less than or equal to 4. We're doing it similarly as we did equations. First we put the number line and we're going to put 0 because we are asking ourselves what values are less than or equal to 4 away from 0. So we have a 0, we go 4 to the right, we get positive 4, 4 to the left, we get negative 4. But this time we have to first put our dots, and our dots are going to be at negative 4 and 4. Those dots exist because we have an equal to sign underneath our equation right there. So we have our two dots. Then we're going to put in those values that are less than 4 away. So a value such as, negative 3. Negative 3 is less than 4 away from 0. Positive 3, sorry. Negative 3 as well. So both positive 3 and negative 3 are less than 4. Negative 1 and positive 1 are also less than 3. So all the values that are in here are all less than 4 away from 0. The two endpoints are the or equal to. Now, this is our answer represented in number line notation. We can also represent our value in set notation. Here this is saying that x is between negative 4 and positive 4. And then finally in interval notation, we're saying we're going from negative 4 brackets, which means includes negative 4, to positive 4 bracket. The bracket indicates the equal to. If it's not a bracket, if it's a parentheses, it means not including that value. Now you should have learned this in Algebra 1, but just in case, I want to recap. When you use your brackets, you include the end values. This is done when you have a value such as greater than or equal to, less than or equal to. The equal to would indicate that you use the brackets. Use the parentheses when you do not include the end values. That's when the equal sign would not be located underneath the inequality symbol. Most of you probably know this from Algebra 1, but just to be on the safe side, here's a review. Don't forget it because it's very important. Sometimes you won't have an answer. Your solution would be no solution. You write this as an empty set. Notice you would use two braces with nothing in the middle, or the null set, two sets of parentheses with nothing in the middle, or no solution, which is a circle with a line through it. Now, of course, if you really, let's see how many of you can figure this one out. If you really wanted to get fancy, you could write it like this, or a million other different ways. That upside down U, it means the word and. And so if you look on a number line, you would be saying the numbers between negative 2 and 0, and 5 and 10. So you would be looking at the values between negative 2 and 0, and negative 5 and 10, which would be these values. Now, you're saying what values are between negative 2 and 0, and also between 5 and 10. Here and here. What values are here and here? There aren't any. So the answer to that would also be no solution. I show you this because one time on a standardized test, this was the answer to no solution, and I didn't get it. So just to be on the safe side, this is a sneaky way to write no solution. Okay, So let's just look at writing intervals on a number line. This is a recap from Algebra 1, but some of you may not have done it in Algebra 1, and I want to make sure everybody's on the same page. So the parentheses here means not included. So we do not include negative infinity. In fact, negative infinity and positive infinity never have a bracket on it because they are never included, because they do not end. Then we would go to 5. That means we would include the value 5. We would also include the value of 10. And the parentheses on the outside of infinity means not including. So we would have a number line that goes from negative infinity, 5, 10, and then the positive infinity. This should have a negative in front of it, sorry. Negative infinity, 5, and 10. So we're looking at our values that are going from negative infinity up to 5, including 5. So that would be the first set of values on the left. And on the right, we're looking for those values that start at 10 and go to infinity. Notice this time we're not using a upside down U. We're using a regular U, which would mean the word or. So the values are in here, or they are in here. And that would be a valid solution. That means any values in the first section that would work, and any value in the second section would also work. Okay, so let's see how this would work with an absolute value inequality. The absolute value of x minus 4 is greater than 2. So we put our number line. Our center is going to be positive 4. And then first we're going to put down the two numbers that are very important, which are 2 away from 4. That would be 6 and 2. We put an empty circle over 2 because notice there is not an equal sign under the inequality. So we're going to put an empty circle on 2 and on 6. Now we're looking for those numbers that are further away than 2. So those values would be greater than 6 or less than 2. We would write this in interval form as negative infinity up to 2. Notice we use parentheses on both because we do not include the endpoint. And then we would use a U to mean or from 6 to infinity. Writing in set notation, we would have x is less than 2 or x is greater than 6. So 3 different ways to write it. Remember the U stands for or. Here's another example. X minus 4 is less than or equal to 5. So once again, we get our number line and we put our center. In this case, it would be positive 4. And then we're looking for the values that are less than 5 away. So 5 away, it would give me 9 on the right-hand side and negative 1 on the left-hand side. That is a less than or equal to symbol, inequality symbol in the equation. So since it has the equal to, we're going to put dots on top of our negative 1 and 9, and then we're going to draw those values that are between negative 1 and 9. Because the values here, or all the values in here, are less than 5 away. All the values in here are less than 5 away. So this is another example. All the values in between there. Written in interval form, you're going to go from negative 1 to 9. Notice I put brackets on both sides because you're going to include the value of negative 1 and you're going to include the value of 9. Another way to write it would be that x is between -1 and 9. Notice the two inequality symbols go the exact same way they are in the equation. We can write it as a combo in the bottom because x is between those two. You should never find this kind of notation with signs going in this direction. That is mathematically incorrect. So if you're going in this, using this notation on an interval like this with an x in between, you probably made a mistake, and this is an OR equation like in our previous example. Okay, here's a final example. The absolute value of x minus 2 is less than or equal to -5. Now, think about this. We already know that an absolute value is distant, so it has to be positive. So there's no way that it could be a -5. So we put our zero, we represent that as a 0 empty number line. There's nothing on our number line because there is no solution to this problem. Another way we could have written it is a set of parentheses with nothing in it. Or we could represent it as a set of braces with nothing in it. Or finally we can represent it with the no solution symbol. Because there is no answer to this problem. So once again, let's recap. In the first column is our equation in absolute value notation. In the second column, we represent the same numbers using interval notation. And in the third column, we use the same representation, this time, however, in number line notation. So there are a number of ways to say the same thing, as we will see in units later on. Good luck with this. Finish up the worksheet that has the inequalities on it in class tomorrow. See you then.